I've been waiting for this moment for so long, and I don't just mean for the past like year plus that we've had this house. I mean like your girl's been waiting for a garage workshop for a long time, and she's finally getting it. Now I know that throughout a lot of the more recent videos on my channel, you've seen me do a lot of building. So you've seen different variations and iterations of clutter in this garage. My garage door wasn't even a garage door. It was just like a piece of tarp flapping in the wind. So we were basically building in a blanket fort, which was like kind of cool, but like only for 5 minutes. And since then, I have a brand new, delicious, gorgeous garage door that is letting in so much natural light. I've also donated all of the excess cabinets that were in here to other people that needed them. And I've gotten rid of a ton of clutter. So it's not that bad in here, she says while looking around her garage and feeling overwhelmed by how much needs to actually get done in this space. But there are still things I need to put in bins for easy access. There are still tools and cabinets that were left from the previous homeowners that I'm hoping to donate, and there is still a whole garage that I basically need to demo because I want to start fresh with a blank slate. We are just going to be clearing out this garage. We're going to be starting fresh, and then by the end I'm going to be showing you what's cooking up in my brain for this space and share some of the really fun ideas I have for this future garage workshop. I'm just going to start here because most of this stuff has to go in bins. Also, I don't know why I have like 4 of the same color wood finish and like 3 of the same types of screws. Am I a hoarder? Am I a hoarder and I don't know? Nah, I can't be hoarding if you actually use all the stuff, right? So I'm probably gonna jump in and out here in voiceover world because, spoiler alert, this project did not go as planned. I thought this was gonna be an easy, let's clean out the garage, let's store some stuff in the storage shed for now. We'll get in here, we'll demo some stuff, we'll paint the walls, fix the floors, and then you'll have a workshop in like a week. But it did not turn out that way. We'll talk about it a little more in a little bit. But yeah, I'm definitely watching this back being like, girlfriend, you celebrated this win way too early. Just wait till you see what's coming. All right, so this is why I think I might be a hoarder. I literally purchased this piece of lumber and I was like, I'm so excited to make something with it. It's been sitting in this garage for a year. So eventually I'll make something cool with it, but right now I'm not. This has to all go into that little storage shed in the back of my house, along with pretty much everything else on this shelf. So that should make my life a little easier. Also, good news, my dad just called and he said that he's free tomorrow morning. So he's gonna come help me do some demo work in here, which is great. So my goal right now is to just get enough cleaned up to where he can come here tomorrow, kind of help me with the rest. And hopefully we can get this entire garage cleaned out tomorrow now that I'll have a second set of hands. I'm probably gonna owe him like a lot of coffee, breakfast, bunch of other stuff. But you know what? It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth it. And you guys love when my dad comes to hang out, so it's gonna be a treat for everyone. It's also 5:35 and it is pitch black outside. I'm over it. I'm over it. I miss the sun. Okay, yeah, so day one, my goal was literally to just clean out what I could and to get some stuff into that storage shed to make space for this renovation. And then my dad was gonna come the next day and just help me kind of demo those workbenches and some stuff on the walls. Okay, so ironically, the last thing I need to do tonight is move my tools from this box to a different box. But once I do that, we're good to go. I feel like I did a lot today, but I also feel like I got not that much done. So I'm hoping that tomorrow when my dad comes to help that he's like, oh my God, wow, you got so much done yesterday. Just like that, like in that voice and everything. So I'm gonna transfer this to the rolly bin. That way tomorrow we still have access to tools, but they're not in a broken box. Almost there, Sam. You can have dinner when you're done. Literally transferring these from one box to another box. So ridiculous. This isn't even mine. I borrowed this from a friend. I gotta give it back. I am done. All right, friends, that's about it. Time for me to grab some dinner because I am hangry. See you tomorrow, friends. Bye. Hi, look who's here.
I'm over here. I'm back.
Yeah, do you even know like what you signed up for today?
I have no clue.
Yeah,
no
we
clue.
have a lot to do.
But she has a mess in here.
It's not that bad. I got a lot done yesterday.
She got a big mess in here.
Dad, do you think I got a lot done yesterday?
I don't know. I wasn't here yesterday.
I was saying yesterday, I was like, he's gonna come in tomorrow and be like, wow, you got so much done. Like, just like that.
It doesn't look like she did that.
That's so rude. Okay, so Dad and I have to demo this. We have to demo the shelving off the wall. We have to demo the other makeshift workbench thing. And we want to demo the loft.
Hopefully.
I think we can get it done in one day. I'm feeling really optimistic. We could do it. I feel it. We could do it.
Now I know why she needed me.
You're doing
To
great.
move stuff.
I'm gonna grab my coffee.
Joe's moving service.
Dad, someone today said that we should start a podcast.
What? I'm too shy.
He just says I'm too shy. Would you guys want to subscribe to a podcast with me and my dad? You're doing great.
I know. Look, Dad, look. I don't understand why it doesn't work, Dad. I don't know why.
He's so dramatic. Hey, quick tip. If you have leftover paint in your house, check out your local recycling center. Our local recycling center has an option for me to literally just bring all of this old paint there and then they will recycle it for me. Don't throw this stuff out in the trash.
Just pour it all over your driveway.
And that's why he doesn't make instructional YouTube videos. Found a horseshoe. Does this mean that we're gonna have some luck in this shop? She says optimistically, not knowing what is literally and figuratively hiding behind the walls of her garage shop. Side note, having a second set of hands for anything demo related, 10 out of 10. Found all of the tape measures. I keep losing. So my goal was really to get most of the front of the garage cleared out during this day with Dad because I really wanted to demo the loft at the top of the garage and start emptying that out while I had him because the old homeowner stored a ton of stuff up there. I really just wanted to start this with a clean slate and be able to come in and customize it and do my thing with it. I will say though, we found some really fun stuff up in that loft. I can't wait to show you. Ooh, look at that.
Woodworking.
Ooh, the woodworking.
Ready? Watch yourself.
Workbook. This was meant to be a wood shop. Look, an old Stanley tool manual, the painting and decorating encyclopedia. There's literally units of lessons and I wonder if I would pass any of these tests. I feel like probably not. We're keeping this. Build your own dust collector. It would be really fun to actually build one of these old school. Ooh, fold down work center. It would actually be really fun to build one of these. Maybe I should do it. Let me know in the comments if I should build one of these that I'm finding. I'll share all the manuals on my Instagram. Do I need to send the troops? Can't even see you.
What?
There he is.
Here I am.
Do you need help getting down? Do I need to call the fire department?
Yep. Oh, 119.
119? I don't know who that's gonna dial, but I don't think they're gonna help you. All right, let me clean up this mess so that we can take this loft down. Oh my goodness, friends, look how big and open it is in here right now. It feels so tall. I love it. I legitimately don't think I want to use that top area as a loft. I think I want to keep it tall in here. It just feels huge. I'm so excited. We're gonna talk plans and workshop design really soon. I promise. I'm so excited to share that all with you. But one thing I want to mention is I was so excited about these tall ceilings because I did not have tall ceilings in my shed shop. So I want to celebrate these ceilings. I don't want to store anything up there. I was super stoked about it. But that excitement was very short-lived because shortly after finding the beautiful exposed ceiling, I found something else that brought this project to a screaming halt. Oh, I wasn't planning on this, so it looks like it's an active leak. So we're gonna have to demo this whole wall. That's all wet back there. It's really bad, right? Mold? Is it mold or just wet? We can stop one. All right, so if you couldn't tell by the abrupt stop, Houston, we have a problem. So basically in the most SparkNotes version I can think of, the previous homeowners had installed windows in this garage and unfortunately they did not install them correctly. Anywhere that there's a window, there was water coming in from the outside for who knows how long. I have no idea when they put the windows in that garage. It could be decades long of leaking into those garage walls. That means that any place that there's a window in that garage, there is also water damage, dry rot, and black mold. mold. And obviously anytime that there's a black mold issue anywhere, it also becomes a health issue. So I'm gonna have to bring in the professionals to deal with this problem. There's good news and bad news. We'll start with the bad news, I guess. I always like starting with the bad news. I feel like the good news kind of like cushions the fall a little bit. So the bad news is that this means that the entire garage needs to be ripped down to the studs. So that means drywall has to go, insulation has to go, the sheathing that's all rotted out and has the black mold has to go. The garage basically has to be safely abated and purified to make sure that black mold isn't growing anywhere else except for these small little sections of the garage. Since we're ripping out sheathing, that also means I need new siding, and I also just found out that I need a new roof because the roof was also not installed properly. Saying that out loud feels less fun than actually thinking about how much needs to be done in that shop. Anyway, the good news is that since a lot of that work needs to be dealt with by professionals because of that black mold issue and the moisture issue, I don't have to do the work because that's gonna be included in kind of like the overall cost of me hiring out for this project. So A, that means it's going to be done the right way. And B, it means that it's gonna be done without me having to do some of those things that I hate doing anyway, aka like drywall work really sucks. I still have other aspects of this project I am going to have to jump in and do once they're done with their part, but essentially I can't be in the garage for the next 3 to 4 weeks because they're gonna be working in there. So I'm gonna let them do their thing, take care of their thing. In the meantime, I will work on some other projects in the house because this house is a never-ending project, which is fine. It just means I'm waiting a little bit longer to get into my workshop than I was hoping. But what that also does is give me some time to plan out this dream workshop space that I've been waiting a decade for. Like when I started my woodworking business, I literally started it out of a corner of my dad's storage shed in the house that I grew up in. And that was like 10 years ago. So I literally have been waiting 10 years to have a workshop like this one. And I'm so excited to plan it. So since they're doing all of the work that I don't want to do, I get to do the fun part of planning. And let me show you what my plans are for this space. There are 3 things that I really want in this workshop. And I wasn't able to have 2 of them in my shed shop because it was too small. The first is custom cabinetry for tool storage. I want to hide all of my tools in these cabinets and drawers and just keep everything looking super neat and super clean. The second thing I want is a miter saw station. I kind of had one of those in my old shop, but I want one that's like huge. Now that I'm able to fit like full pieces of wood in my workshop, I want to have a place where I could comfortably cut them. And you all know like the miter saw is one of my favorite tools because it's one of the first tools I ever learned how to use. So I'm going to be making a super cool miter saw station. Even cooler, I have a really special guest coming to help me build these cabinets. I'm so excited for her to come. You guys are gonna be so stoked. She is honestly like a cabinet making queen. I cannot wait to spill the beans on who is coming to visit me next month. Also, one thing that I always have wished that I had space for in the shed shop was a proper outfeed table for a proper table saw. So I'm upgrading my table saw. I'm gonna be building a really cool outfeed table in the center of my shop that's also going to be kind of like a workstation for most of my projects. Cannot wait for that. In addition to that, I want it to be light and bright, lots of cool lighting in there. We're gonna have, you know, now that glass door and the windows, and I'm putting in a new door on the side of the garage is also gonna have a glass window. So my hope is to not really have to use those lights, but because it gets so dark so early in the winter, it's gonna be so nice to have these bright, vibrant LED lights in the shop. Organization's gonna be key. Cool customization's gonna be key. I just think that this is gonna be such a fun project. I cannot wait to get started on this part of the project, which I thought I would be getting started on now, but I have to wait a little bit. It is what it is. As much as I'm bummed that I can't get in there now, I am excited that I can get in there soon. And luckily I'm actually going to be away for Workbench conference for a week. And then the hope is that when I get back, most of the work on the interior is done, and then I can get on there and start working on the concrete slab because it needs a lot of love. Also start hopefully painting some drywall and like figuring out some creative things with the ceiling. I am going to leave the pros to do the pro job. I'm gonna head out to Workbench conference in a couple of days. When I get back, we will get started on the concrete floors. Friends, it is looking so exciting in here. There is so much room for activities. Do you see how big it is in here? It's really not that big. It's only like 300 square feet, but it's like double the size of my last shop. So it feels like the Taj Mahal in here. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too excited because it's not gonna feel this big forever. Last time we were in here, there were a lot of dramatics. We demoed, we found a ton of issues. I ended ended up contracting out to help with those issues because a lot of them were like health related, structure related. Because I had a contract out for this project, I am spending way more money than I wanted to. So to help recoup some of that cost, I decided that I'm going to try to refinish these concrete floors all by myself. Have I ever done that before? No, but like how hard could it be, right? I always say that and then it's like ends up being so freaking hard. But you know, it's never stopped me from trying, so here we are. Anyway, it is Sunday. The guys are not coming in until tomorrow. So while they are not here, we're gonna do these floors and they're gonna dry in time for them to come back and do some work tomorrow. This is really ambitious. Not feeling 100% certain about it at this current moment, but I know that when it's done, we're gonna be pumped. So let's get started. First thing that I need to do in this space is clean the floors. So I'm going to grab my shop blower just to kind of blow out all of the debris. And then I'm gonna bring my hose in and we're gonna hose down and scrub this entire floor. The good news is that the product I'm using actually needs the concrete to be wet when applying it. So I don't have to wait for the floor to dry. It just needs to stay damp. And once it's damp, I am gonna come in with my angle grinder and I'm gonna start trying to like grind up some of this paint that's on the floor and try to just get as much of the stuff and debris out of here as possible so we can start with the cleanest of clean slates before pouring any concrete. So let's clean. I love cleaning. I don't know why. Cleaning makes me so happy. You know the movies when they douse the place with gasoline, they're like, get ready to burn down. Like this is my method right now. The dramatic movie equivalent of dousing gasoline everywhere. I think there's just like no rhyme or reason. It's like concrete soap. Concrete really isn't in terrible shape, so. So I realized in watching this back, it seems like I'm actually pouring gasoline on my floor. I'm not, it's concrete soap. I just needed to give this concrete floor a good wash to get any dirt, grime, grease, whatever I could off before pouring a new layer of concrete on top. As always though, I do have a full list of the materials and tools I used for this project in the video description below. And speaking of materials and tools, I was actually quoted about $1,050 to hire out for this job and I completed it for under 200 bucks. There are a couple of spots on the floor that have some paint. I guess the previous homeowner had like spilled some paint in here, whatever happens, that's what a garage is for, right? So I actually am going to take my angle grinder and I'm gonna kind of go around to these problem spots and grind up as much as I can. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I don't think I can even get it perfect if I tried with this little angle grinder, but at least I'm gonna try to get as much of it up as I can so that when I start to pour the resurfacing concrete, it has a place to stick and then these areas won't like chip later on in the process. There are a couple of them and I think this is honestly gonna be the part of the project that takes the longest, so I'm gonna get started on that. Oh, also, by grinding this wet, there's gonna be way less dust. That's why I wet the floor before I started this. You got it. Where are my earphones? I'd love to listen to something other than the sound of a grinder. Let's get ready to rumble. So I'm not gonna lie, my original goal with this floor was I really actually wanted to polish it and grind down the concrete, but that is a job and a half and this floor needs way more work than that, which is why I'm actually choosing to essentially pour another layer of concrete on top of the currently existing slab to fill in a lot of the imperfections. But yes, in order to do that, you have to have a clean floor, so I just tried to get rid of whatever debris that I could before starting that process. Now, in terms of the product that I use to refinish the floor, I basically use like a concrete resurfacing product that's essentially just a watered down layer of concrete. Also, like, pro tip, don't pour half the bag on your feet when you're trying to pour it in the bucket. That was real smooth, Sam. Anyway, so I mixed up a couple of different batches of this concrete. It was a really like watery almost consistency. And then I poured that directly onto the concrete slab and squeegeed it out to get it level and looking nice. So while this was really easy to apply, one thing I want to note is you see that piece of wood that's running down the center of the slabs? Yeah, that used to be an expansion joint that's no longer functioning as one because it already is basically like concreted and caked into there. So I did get the okay from a concrete person to cover that up. There are other expansion joints in these slabs, but I'll show you those a little later. As you can see though, I basically just applied the product, squeegeed it, and used a brush to smooth it out. All right, so 2 things. 1, I really wish I had somebody else filming today while I was working because this stuff is like super time sensitive, but it's starting to set up. I can kind of see it. So I'm gonna make the bold decision to jump on back in there with the broom and get some final, just like even strokes. I gotta say, I was very skeptical about this product and it looks great. There's a lot of cleanup to do, like in the driveway area. I have to hose a lot of stuff down because there's just a lot of residual mess from the runoff, but this looks so much better. So I'm gonna just sneak in. I kind of actually don't think I need to touch that section here. There is one thing I want to patch though. It's starting to like set already and I don't want to ruin it. There are like a couple spots I'm not happy with. I'm shocked, honestly. I did not think that this was gonna work this well. I was so skeptical about this product. It just looks so much better than it did. Like there's still obviously parts that are like now I see have like dips in them, but I think I'm gonna patch those later. I hope that's something I could fix after it dries because you're gonna like really see that spot right there. Don't mess it up, Sam. Don't mess it up. If only I was born with longer arms. Anyone gonna notice it but me? No. But is it gonna probably annoy me every day I'm in here? Yeah, so we gotta get it. I gotta find a way to get it. Ugh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Okay. Oh, I feel so much better. That looks great. All right, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this alone. We're gonna let this dry. I'm not gonna touch it anymore. I'm gonna close the doors. Maybe put like the heat on for a little bit in here, really let it do its thing. Once the guys do the drywall work, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna patch like all the sides up later in the process. I'm not worried about that right now. This was like my main concern. So, all right, we're just gonna close this. All right, I'll check back in tomorrow, friends, but success. So the surfacing concrete product I use really only needs a couple of hours to dry before you can walk on it. But I did give it a couple of days only because the contractor and his crew were here kind of like doing all the things they needed to do to finish the walls. But I did notice when I came back, there were all these like little holes and marks that I was unhappy with. So I decided to use a concrete patching product on them just to smooth them out and blend them in a little better. And once that dried, I was able to get kind of like another coat of that surfacing concrete on the actual floor and on the foundation portion, like where the cinder block is that I'm filling in now. And it was able to blend in really, really nicely. I mean, are we surprised that I left van marks in my floor? This is just, if there is something signature that belongs in this shop, I feel like this is it. I might not even fix that. I think that's hysterical. Oh, friends, it is looking so good in here. I just like can't believe that this is the same space. The floor still has a couple of moisture spots in it. I think it's because we're having this like weird weather right now where like one day it's 80 degrees and the next day is 50 degrees. So the concrete is releasing moisture in like different spots. So I have the heater running on the concrete for, you know, just a little bit. Probably just wait a couple more days until everything looks like it's even, and then I'll come back and I'll add a seal coat. But for now, I don't want to waste any time, so I'm gonna start sanding some of the drywall and priming and painting. There's still a couple of patches here that need a second coat, but I'm not worried about it. I have my electrician coming to do some electrical work, which is why we haven't patched anything over here. But as for everything else, like I'm gonna do some sanding, priming, painting, because on Monday I have a friend coming to help me build some cabinets. So let's get some stuff done. Also, it's really nice that it's getting dark out, but it is super bright in the shop. I will take that. Yeah, I spoke too soon on the lights thing. As I'm watching this footage, I'm realizing that these LED lights are probably not going to work out in the shop with my camera setup, so I'm probably going to change them out later, but that's a problem for future Sam. For now, I just apologize for how wild this disco lighting looks in this video. Please, I hope that you can look past it and forgive me. In better news though, how incredible does the ceiling of my shop look? You guys, I'm so excited! I cannot wait to share my plans for the ceiling of this workshop. Oh, it's gonna be delicious. Okay, friends, it's looking so good in here. That's my song about how good my garage shop is looking, but anyway. I came in here last night, I primed all of the walls. This morning I actually painted this wall and that wall using leftover paint from my home reno stuff. I only focused on painting these two walls because my special guest is arriving tomorrow and we're gonna get started on working on the cabinets for my workshop, and these are the two walls that we're working on, so I just wanted them painted. I can come back and do the rest at a later date. I also have something kind of cool planned for this wall here. It's like a big wall, but we'll get there when we get there. I'm always getting ahead of myself. I'm just so excited. Okay, so today is concrete floor ceiling day. I think these floors look pretty cool. There are a couple spots here and there that are still slightly discolored, but I don't hate it. It kind of gives it like an acid wash look. I think it has to do a little bit with kind of like the moisture of the slab, as well as the fluctuating temperatures outside. I have lots of theories. It could be fixed if I really wanted to put the effort and time into it. Fortunately, I don't really have the effort and time to put into it right now, and I don't hate it enough to want to kind of start fresh, so we're gonna leave it alone. That being said, I'm going to add some clear coats. It needs 24 hours to dry. I basically have 24 hours until we start building these cabinets, so I have to get started on this, and I'm gonna throw on a podcast and we're gonna do it. Let's go, let's do it. So excited, so excited. In terms of the actual finishing process, this was super simple. I just used a concrete finishing product. I used it in matte. It went on dark. It dried the same color as the floor. I rolled it on with a paint roller. It honestly could not have been an easier process. Now, once the floors were sealed, I just had to tackle one more thing, and that was taking care of those expansion joints along the edges of the concrete slabs that I mentioned earlier in this video. To do this, I filled them with DAP's concrete and mortar filler and sealant. This is a really easy to use waterproof sealant that repairs cracks and holes in concrete. It is different than the patch I used earlier because it contains silicone additives which make it flexible, and you definitely want a flexible product for cracks that need to move and breathe. I also applied it to the bottom of my door since it's a waterproof product, and once that was done, my shop floor was ready to roll. Friends, can you believe that this is the same space? Like literally when we started this video, there were no walls, the floor looked like extra crappy, and now it's looking like a shop, and I'm so excited. So the floors, they kind of came out the way that I wanted them to, they kind of didn't. I mean, they look better than they did. There's still a couple of spots that like are a little patchy, but I feel like once I start putting cabinets in here, you're not really gonna see a lot of that anyway, so I'm cool with it. But I don't wanna like obsess about the floors. In fact, I'm so excited because we're gonna be building cabinets with a very special guest. It's Shara from Witch Out Diaries! Yay! I have Shara here because she is a cabinet making queen, and she's
giving too much credit.
No, you are. So she's gonna help me build cabinets for my garage workshop, you guys. I'm so excited. There's so much room for activities. I think it's gonna be fun. Hopefully I don't torture you too much over the next like 3 days I have you. By the way, we're trying to make this happen in 3 days of work. I think we can do it. So we spent a day and a half building something, but
You'll have to go to my channel to check it out.
yeah, so that big build, which is actually really epic and is arguably way cooler than probably what we're building today, is on Shara's channel. Go check it out. But in the meantime, we're gonna be building my microphone station at the back of the shop here, and we're gonna divide and conquer because that worked really well yesterday. Shara's going to cut down the plywood. As she cuts down the pieces, I'm actually going to be notching out the backs and the fronts. So she's on circular saw duty. I'm gonna get jiggy with it. And yeah, that's all we got. Let's get started. Woo! Okay, this was a giant build, so it was so helpful to tackle this as a team. So to get started, Shara ripped the plywood pieces down to the width we needed for the cabinets using a circular saw and the Craig rip cut, and then she cut them to their final height for the cabinet boxes with the Craig AccuCut, which is essentially a guide you can use for your circular saw to make super straight cuts. But if you're looking for the dimensions for this build, I have published some free plans on Craig's website, so you can check them out by clicking on the link below this video. Now, I have these concrete curbs running along 3 of the walls in my shop, but because we want the cabinets to be flush to the wall, we had to notch out the back of the cabinet sides so they fit over this curb. We also made the same notch in the front of the cabinet boxes as well for a toe kick, and I just cut these out using my jigsaw. So this is what I mean when I say Shara is a cabinet making queen. While I was cutting all of these out with the jigsaw, she was busy basically cutting the rest of the pieces for these plywood cabinets and absolutely crushing it. Shara's already cut like 4 whole cabinets. I still have 2 more cabinet bottoms to cut with my jigsaw. I'm doing great.
She's doing great.
She said I'm doing great. So one of the reasons why I knew that we'd be a good tag team for this project is because we both look at big cabinet builds the same way. We're essentially just building 4 separate boxes that we're going to be attaching together to make a cohesive cabinet. And one of the secret tricks to level up a cabinet build like this one is to add edge banding to the plywood edges to make it look like solid wood. So I almost asked Shara wanted to draw straws to see like who's gonna edge band and who's gonna sand, but they're both equally as horrible. So I don't think anybody actually wins in this case.
You either get burnt fingers or sanded fingers.
Yeah, then your hands are like this for the rest of the day.
Pick your poison.
Shara's gonna edge band, this gal's gonna sand. We both ain't very lucky today. So after banding and sanding, we then moved on to drilling pocket holes. So Shara drilled pocket holes in the larger of the plywood pieces using the Pocket Hole Jig 720, which is awesome because it has an Automax clamping system that auto-adjusts to the depth you need every time you use it. And while she did that, I moved on to drilling pocket holes in the smaller pieces with my Foreman, which I love using for quick and repeated pocket holes. And once that was done, it was time for assembly. Shara's gonna assemble this cabinet in 60 seconds, and mine's gonna take 60 minutes.
Okay. No, you gotta time it from when you get.
Oh, to race? Are we racing? Okay, this is a competition. We're gonna see who can assemble their cabinet faster.
Oh wait.
I think it's gonna be Shara, but I'm gonna try my dang hardest. You're starting with the screw in.
I have a screw in the drill. Driver, whatever this is.
Ready? On your mark, get set, go. That was the most cardio I've done in like 6 years. Woo! Good job. I was only 3 pocket holes behind.
You gotta adjust one screw.
Oh! You have to adjust the
No,
screw!
it's done.
That
It
means
just
I
needs
win
to
by
be-
default. Woo! Woo! I never want to do that competition again. That was loud. Good job. Once those cabinet boxes were assembled, it was time for installs. So we installed them into the studs of the wall, also shimmed them up from the floor to make sure they were level, and screwed them in together. We have a couple of things we have to work around here because this is what happens when you do custom cabinetry, right? So basically, as you can see, this gorgeous, beautiful electrical system in my garage is totally in the way. So what we did, I'm gonna zoom in on this so you can see it, is we actually installed, I'll show you the difference. Basically every cabinet we've made so far, we've installed a board up top as a support for drilling the countertop into and a board in the back for drilling the cabinet into the wall studs. However, for this, because we're kind of working around an electrical system, what we're gonna end up doing is we put a larger support here and we're going to level everything out and then cut around these. You're not gonna see it anyway, so it doesn't even need to be neat, which is great for me. Once everything has kind of come together, since we have a little more surface area, if we feel like these 2 just drilled into studs on this side isn't enough, then we can also drill this cabinet into the studs as well. We'll figure that out when we get there. So yeah, we have some creative cutting. We have to cut around here. There's a pipe on the bottom we have to cut around. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna screw them together and level them first though. So let's go. So I feel like that was pretty self-explanatory, but basically we dry fit the cabinets as best as we could. We screwed them together, we made sure they were level, and then I was able to mark exactly where I needed to cut out with my jigsaw, and I just cut out any of those openings with my jigsaw. What are the chances, Sam? There was a good shot, but that might not have worked. I'm really glad it did.
I would think the odds were pretty good.
You have a lot of faith.
I would have.
You have a lot of faith in me. After installing the cabinet boxes, we divided and conquered yet again. Shara used the AccuCut to cut the cabinet and drawer fronts down to size, and then I focused on cutting smaller filler pieces for in between the walls and the cabinets. I also wanted to start thinking about organization, so I took some time to also drill adjustable shelf pin holes into the cabinet boxes as well for shelving with the Craig shelf pin jig. And at this point though, we were tired, happy, and wanted tacos, so we called it a night and came back the next day for round 2. Good morning, YouTube. So Shara and I, Shara's still here. I'm just gonna kidnap her forever.
Hey.
We're tired. It's been 2 full days, like 12-hour days in here, basically.
Yes.
So like we're exhausted, but it's coming along. Today's the last day that I have her. Have like a lot to do. Okay, so yesterday we got all of the, people hate when I use the word cabinet carcass, so.
I love that. A carcass is my favorite word.
So yesterday we had all of the cabinet frames built.
Carcasses.
And carcasses. And the doors cut, the drawer fronts cut. And so I'm gonna get started by sanding all of these pieces. Shara's gonna get started by cutting all of the drawer box pieces. And then we're gonna assemble the drawer boxes, install all this stuff, and then I have a bunch of butcher block tops to cut. So we have a lot to do today, or hopefully we can get it done.
I think so.
I think we can.
We're gonna be pushing it.
It's gonna be really pushing it, but I think we can do it. I think if we're just like positive enough
Just need to stay focused
and caffeinated.
and not distracted.
All right, let's do it. So day 2 started with Shara whipping out that Craig grip cut to make the drawer boxes all the same depth. And while she did that, I got busy doing the super fun job of sanding every single piece that she cut and then handed to me. Once we were both done though, it was time to assemble all of the boxes together. Shara attached the frames together using pocket hole screws, and then I added the bottom of the drawer boxes using some glue and brad nails. Now to help install the drawer boxes to the cabinets, we use Craig's drawer slide jig. This jig is a game changer. It helps to accurately position the drawer slides in the bases, which leaves very little room for error when squaring everything up. And since the jig makes things so easy, this really was kind of a one-person job, so Shara tackled finishing up installing the drawer boxes while I moved on to working on cutting and fitting the tops of the cabinets. So because no wall is perfectly straight, I ended up using Craig's adaptive cutting system saw with guide and track kit. I am obsessed with this thing. I was able to cut through this butcher block like butter. I know I've spoken about this before in my videos, but I love having a track saw in my shop. They're not only perfect for cutting along a straight or, well, semi-crooked line if you're building for my house, but they're pretty invaluable for times when you have to break down heavy or bulky material that is annoying to lift onto a stationary saw for a project. I honestly very much enjoyed using the Craig track saw kit that comes with the plunge saw and highly recommend it to anyone who's looking for a track saw for their shop. I will link it below this video along with everything else so you can check it out. Anyway, back to the build. So after cutting out the countertops, I then attached them to the cabinets from the underside using oversized holes as well as some screws and some washers just to leave some wiggle room for them to expand and contract. And as I did that, Shara attached the drawer fronts to all of the drawer boxes and also began to install the hinges for the cabinet doors as well using Craig's cabinet hinge jig. This jig comes with a Forstner bit that helps to drill exactly where you need your hinges to go, and it aligns everything perfectly, which makes install an absolute breeze. We also use the cabinet door mounting jig, which is really cool because it basically holds the door in place while you mount the hinges to the cabinet box. At this point, all that was really left was to install supports for my actual miter saw to sit, and it sits below the cabinets we built because when the miter saw is up there and you put the pieces on, everything is level. But yeah, you get the picture. This is gonna be perfect. Get to look out the window when I'm cutting. And at this point I started to get a little emotional because not only was this build almost done, but that meant that Shara was leaving me the next day. First of all, it's hot. Second of all, how good does this look? How good does this look? I'm so excited.
Really good.
Like, can you believe that 3 days ago there was nothing in here? It was literally a blank canvas, and in 3 days, I can't tell if we're like really efficient or just like we love torturing ourselves, but But in 3 days, we literally built a whole wall of cabinets there, which we're actually about to stain. I'm not gonna share this one. You have to go to Shara's channel and check out the build to go see it. It's amazing. So we're gonna stain this. Shara's leaving really early in the morning. I feel like I wouldn't hold you for ransom, but I feel like saying that on camera is really incriminating. So, yeah. So Shara's leaving in the morning. We're gonna get her build done, and then I'm gonna work by myself tomorrow to finish this one.
I am sad to be leaving, but I'm glad that you get to stain this one.
That's fair. Okay, let's go stain. Thank you so much for like coming and doing this with me.
Thanks so much for inviting me. This was fun, but I swear, like, it's been a whirlwind of a 3 days.
Oh my god, like I'm so shocked. Like I'm really shocked that we actually got these things built in 3 days. But I'm also not shocked because like my body feels very tired. So like this is a great buddy build for like a 5-day weekend. Just saying. Okay, let's go stain. Let's go stain. So before this video continues without Shara present, because after we stained the boards for the cabinets, she did unfortunately have to go home. I do just want to say a huge thank you to her for coming all the way to New York from Kentucky to spend 3 days building in my shop. It was such a whirlwind of a project. I still have no idea how we got it all done, but I also do because we worked our behinds off and it was so awesome. Building with friends is such a special feeling, and to have friends who are willing to travel to you from like hours and states away to help you build your literal dreams in your workshop is just such a special feeling. It's so hard to describe. So thank you so much to Shara for coming to help me with this build. If you are not subscribed to her channel, you are 100% missing out, so please go subscribe to her channel. Go check out her projects. They are amazing. She is a furniture and cabinet making queen. I feel so honored that I get to look at these cabinets all the time and just think about how she helped me build them. I really love her so much, and I know that you will too, so please go check out her stuff. But yeah, after 3 days of building, we were able to kind of end our journey together by staining these doors and some of the cabinets. And then I had to work on things all by myself after this, which really sucked. Hey friends, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. No, but for real, it's just me and Arrow who's making gross chewing noises. I really hope the microphone is not picking them up. Anyway, unfortunately, I'm all alone today. Shara went home. I already miss having my friend here, which really sucks, but can't kidnap her forever. Anyway, we got a lot done in 3 days. We built an entire unit of cabinets along this side of my shop. Also though, we did end up getting this done too behind me, which is like a workbench miter station thing, and you all know how much I love my miter saw and how much I was craving space in my last shop, and now I'm actually able to very comfortably cut 10-foot pieces of wood over here, and it's just been life-changing. Anyway, so I decided yesterday off camera to stain these cabinets. I did it off camera because like staining's not that fun, but today I'm actually going to put a coat of finish on everything. I want everything to be easy to clean and wipe down, and right now like this raw stained plywood just ain't working. Finish coats today, hardware tomorrow, and then I can actually start putting my tools in my workshop, which is like blowing my mind because for the past 1.5 years, they've just been scattered around my house or like in my basement, or I forget things at my shed shop, or my dad stole my tools, but now they'll all be under one roof. I'm so excited. So before I can get excited about organizing my tools though, let's finish these workbenches. Great. Please don't eat that screw. Thank you. Come on, let's get started. So because we got a ton done, there wasn't a lot to do in terms of finishing. One thing I wanted to do was just add a little like backsplash backer board to the butcher block top, and then I wanted to give everything a nice coat of varnish. I decided to use Total Bolt's Halcyon Clear Varnish here. This was my first time actually using this varnish, and I really like it, and I wanted to share it because it rolls on really nicely with a foam roller. I did about 3 coats, and it's so easy to clean and wipe down already. I highly recommend this as a finish if you are doing a woodworking project. Now, once that finish was dry, I then wanted to move on to adding some hardware to the cabinets and to the drawers. And to do this, I used Craig's Cabinet Hardware Jig. I love this thing. I used it all over my kitchen. Because these handles are bigger than the jig, I did have to get a little creative, but it still worked out perfectly, and all of my handles look super professional. Okay, friends, we are nearing the finish line on this build. Am I in the frame? I don't know, because you didn't flip the viewfinder to look at you, Sam. So now we're just gonna guesstimate. Oh God. Okay, so we are nearing the finish line on this build. I am super excited about it. So yesterday, as you might know, because you just watched that part of the video, I added finish, I added hardware, and really all that's left at this point is just to add a toe kick to the bottom to hide the bottom and just make it look super neat. Here's the thing, my floors are not level in this garage. I mean, to be fair, most floors anywhere aren't level when you're building. This end of the cabinet is like 4.5 inches off the ground, and then this end is like 8.5 inches off the ground. I'm gonna have to get a little creative with cutting the toe kick for this project, but it's super easy. I'm gonna show you how, don't worry. And then I'm gonna add some edge banding to the ends to make it look neat. I gotta stain, I gotta finish, I gotta install, and then that's a wrap on these cabinets. That's a lie. There is one more thing I wanted to add trim-wise to the cabinet on that wall, but super easy fix. Once this is done, I can actually start moving my tools back into this workshop. I literally have not had my tools in one spot in 18 months, so it's gonna feel so good to get them in here. And one of the things I really wanna do, especially once my tools are in here and I start kind of inventorying, is start creating some custom organization for these cabinets, but that'll be a whole separate video. So subscribe and like and click those notification bells for that one. Oh my God, why? Why do you guys watch my content? I'm so awkward. All right, there's tons to do. I want to finish this project today so badly so I can start bringing all my tools into this workshop from my basement and my closet and my shed shop and outside. And there's some in the storage shed. I'm ready to give everything a home, so let's do this. Oh God, getting up felt just as bad as squatting down. Oh my goodness, what is wrong? Don't get old, people. Because my floors are so uneven, also, spoiler alert, I'm definitely doing another coat of resurface around these floors at some point. But anyway, I did have to cut a pretty uneven looking toe kick for these cabinets, which is why this track saw came in handy. Just like I mentioned before, it is really good for making cuts that are not perfectly straight but also need to be straight, if that makes sense. And so I cut the toe kicks using the track saw, stained them, installed them, and at this point my workshop was ready for all of my tools. So after 3 days of work, Shara and I were able to get the miter saw station done and the cabinet done on the side of the shop as well, but you'll have to go to her channel to check out that entire build. And now it was time to focus on the center of the workshop, which is where my dreamy Outfeed table is going to be built. I swear one day I'm gonna be one of those legit YouTubers with like a really cool backdrop and a cool space to like do these videos from, but today is not that day. So if you've been here for a while, then you might remember I started my woodworking journey about 12 years ago out of the corner of my dad's storage shed, and from there I then went to a slightly bigger shed. It was a 12 by 12 shed that my dad and I built together, and now we are in a 1.5 car garage. So for about a decade, I have been consistently using job site saws or compact saws in my space, but that's gonna change today. So now that I have more space to work, I am finally officially upgrading my table saw to a big girl cabinet saw. I have been dreaming of this moment for so long. And you know that safety comes first in the shop, so of course I upgraded to a saw stop table saw. We're gonna talk more about why I am upgrading to a cabinet saw a little later in this video. But in addition to the big girl saw upgrade, I am also getting something that I've wanted in my workshop for literally 12 years since I started building in a workshop, and that is a dedicated Outfeed table. I have always wanted an Outfeed table. I've never had the space for an Outfeed table, but now that I'm in a bigger workshop space, it is time for a dedicated saw and a dedicated Outfeed table, and we're gonna build that together today. So friends, let's get started. Friends, I am so stoked about this project. First of all, it is absolutely a dream come true to be able to have an Outfeed table in my workshop. And also, your girl just celebrated a birthday recently and her body feels like it's falling apart. So to not have to work on the floor anymore would be ideal. But for real though, this is a pretty simple build that I am building in 2 parts because it is a pretty tight space in here. But as always, I will link a full tutorial as well as plans for this project on my website, and you can find that by clicking on the link below this video. Oh man, I just had this realization that this is probably the last time I'm gonna be cutting a project on the floor of my workshop. It's so bittersweet. I'm really excited to not be crawling on the floor anymore, but man, I've never had an Outfeed table. It's all I've ever wanted. I'm so excited. Okay. Never ending stream. Oh, I do usually shut my microphone off when I have my headphones in because I am a singer in the shop and no one wants to hear that, so let me mute me. You're welcome in advance. So clearly at this point in the process, I do not have my new table saw set up. That is because there is a ton of material in the way, and this table saw is actually pretty big, so I really just wanted to cut down as much as I could into usable pieces to create my Outfeed table before even thinking about unpacking the saw, and I did that using a circular saw for now. I will be cutting some more custom pieces on that table saw later in the process once it is set up, but for now, we're just focusing on most of the big stuff needed to create the actual cabinet boxes for the Outfeed table. Now, if you've been here for a little bit, you might remember my friend Shara came to visit and she helped me build the other cabinets in my workshop. So I'm building this Outfeed table essentially the same exact way that we built those cabinets. So if you're looking for another type of tutorial for a similar style cabinet to the one that I'm building, you can check that out. I've linked those videos below this one. They're really helpful, they turned out rad, and I'm frankly kind of obsessed. You could be my pocket hole princess, and I'll be your garage workshop queen. I'm listening to too much pop punk, I think, in my workshop. Just kidding, there's no such thing as too much pop punk, emo kid at heart. Anyway, let's drill some pocket holes in these boards so we can get this thing assembled, or at least half of it. Once those cabinet box pieces were cut, it was then time to start assembling them. I used pocket hole joinery for this part of the project. I don't know, you guys know I love pocket hole joinery. They're just easy, they're strong, you can hide them, they're just great. Anyway, so once I did that, next it was time to just make everything look nice and neat. And I did this by using one of my favorite woodworking tricks in the books, and that is adding some edge banding to the raw plywood edges to make the plywood look like fancy hardwood. Favorite woodworking magic trick? Edge banding. Let's make these plywood edges look better. Oh, hi, Papa. Well, before we do that, let's have some puppy time. Hi, Papa. Come say hi. Hi. Hi, hi Wiggles, hi Wiggles, hi Wiggles, hi, hi, hi. Back in action. Let's make these plywood edges look nicer. Okay, so I know what some of you might be thinking. You're like, Sam, why are you spending time edge banding your workshop cabinets? And I hear you, but hear me out. So my vibe, my vision for this space was I just want it to be more than a workshop. This place is functioning as my happy place, my studio, my creative place to film and do some work. And I really wanted all of the cabinets in this space to feel finished, and I wanted the space to feel clean and inspiring. So I am going the extra mile in this workshop, and so far I haven't regretted a single minute of spending some extra time doing fine detail work like adding some edge banding. In fact, I'm pretty sure the next video that I'll be doing in this space is adding a fun accent wall and some little things to make this space feel more homey, and I just know that this is going to be such a really rad space when it's done, and I really can't wait to share that entire vision with all of you. But that being said, we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because that's the next video. Let's talk about this video. At this point, once everything was edge banded, it was time to start assembling the cabinet boxes. Like I mentioned, I assembled the entire Outfeed table in 2 parts because it is a tight space to work in. Ideally, I would have loved to have built just like a giant cabinet and just added some dividers, but it wasn't really an option for the space I'm working in at the current moment, and this worked out just fine. I literally out loud was just like, it's going so well. Jinxed it. I put this on backwards. So I put this on the non-edge banding side facing out. It's supposed to be this side here. Also, this is a little wonky because it's not squared up top. It'll fix itself. But I think what I'm gonna do is finish just putting the cabinet together and then take this piece out and flip it, 'cause it's gonna be so annoying to try to edge band to this while it's already in. So, annoying, but minor mishap. These things happen. Let's keep going. So my goal for day 1 for this build is actually pretty much just to pre-cut all the pieces, sand them, get them edge banded, but I did end up having a little bit extra time, which worked in my favor because I was able to assemble one whole side of the Outfeed table cabinet. But once that was done, I did decide to call it a very successful day and then move on to the second side on the next day. All right, friends, we are back in the workshop. First side's done, been done since yesterday. Second side pieces are all sanded and ready to roll. So let's assemble the second side, and then I'm pretty sure my dad's coming over to help me unpack this saw so we can figure out where everything's going. This garage used to feel very big, and now it's starting to feel a little tiny, seeing everything kind of in the space. So I'm excited about the saw though, so let's do it. Let's get some music on. So this is the part of the project where building this thing in 2 parts really made sense. As you can see, I'm pretty much duplicating what I did on the other side to this side, and then I'm going to attach them together and be able to level them once they are attached. I didn't want this to look like 2 separate cabinets, so I am going to be adding a big panel to the ends of them in a little bit just to make it look like a solid cabinet. But as you can kind of see, there wasn't a ton of room to work here, and this Outfeed table is going to be taking up a majority of my workshop at this point, so building it in pieces just made total sense. Eventually too, in future project planning, I am going to be making some custom storage for inside of this Outfeed table, which I'm super stoked about because I'm going to be keeping some bigger tools in here, so definitely stay tuned for that. I think that's going to be rad. Tops in, getting somewhere, woo! Yes, yes! It's lining up very, very well. I love that. All right, so once the cabinet base was ready to roll, it was pretty much time to then assemble my table saw, which was definitely a 2-person operation. Don't you worry, your favorite human being, my dad, is coming over to help me with this part of the project. And the feeling of love is very mutual. He loves you all as much as you love him. Nice. But anyway, now that we are at table saw setup time, I do want to take a few moments here to talk about exactly why I'm swapping out my portable compact table saw for a big girl professional cabinet saw from SawStop. And honestly, the list is pretty big. So first things first, I have always wanted a heavy duty stationary table saw setup in my workshop, but I knew that if I was going to make the leap to a forever saw, it had to be a SawStop. So every SawStop comes equipped with a patented safety system, which retracts the spinning saw blade if it ever comes in contact with skin. I mean, have you seen those viral hot dog videos? Because they speak for themselves. But anyway, on top of the safety component, I also wanted a powerful saw which wouldn't bind or trip when cutting different materials, and I wanted something reliable and sturdy as well, which are all features of the professional cabinet saw. Listen, I love my job site saws, but I constantly had to level a job site saw before using it since it was meant to be mobile, and now I barely have any setup time before cutting, which is really rad. Just saying, I have quickly come to understand why the professional cabinet saw is SawStop's most popular saw for sure. I have a big girl saw.
What you get?
Oh, I love the height. How
It's perfect height.
I'm a shorty. This is perfect height for me.
Take it over.
Ooh, she's sexy. Oh my God. So Dad's all excited about helping me set up my new saw. Wonderful. It comes with everything you need and a dissertation-like manual to tell you how to assemble your saw. So we are gonna take some time to figure this out. We're gonna get,
About a month.
we'll see. Dad thinks it's gonna take a month. Yeah, probably closer to that. So we're gonna assemble the saw, and then once that's done, I'm gonna be assembling the fence as well. So this is gonna take up a lot of space in here, but it's gonna be worth it, right, Dad? He says maybe. He's gonna be in here using this thing probably more than I am. You're stealing the small one. He already called the compact saw. Smart move. All right, let's do this. In terms of assembly, SawStop could not have made this process any easier. Every part was labeled beautifully. The manual was very detailed. Dad and I were able to pretty much knock this thing out throughout the rest of the evening after he came over to help me set it up. Also, just want to note, it was really important to get this thing set up while the cabinet was still empty without a top, because I did have to kind of move it around the workshop a little bit to figure out where the perfect placement was. And between the saw and the cabinet, I just wanted things to be as light as possible while trying to figure out the layout, because this thing is taking up a majority of my workshop. How's it look? Does it look like a real shop?
No.
What the hell? Not enough sawdust, I agree. Ah, this is like crazy. I can't believe I have a big girl saw in here. I've always wanted one. My dream has been to have an Outfeed table, and now I get it. Yeah, we need to throw a level on there. I got leveling feet for the cabinet. Where is my level? It's gotta come up on this side. Ooh, so close. Okay, so this isn't so bad. I don't know why I was freaking out that it was gonna be too big. Scheming and dreaming. Once that table saw was set up, I could have very easily continued the cabinet build, but hear me out. These lights in this workshop have been annoying me since the day they were installed, so I did decide to take some time before things got too heavy to replace the lights in the shop. And I also decided to get up on the ladder and just stain all of those pieces of wood up top that were not the same color as the rest of the roof, the same color as the rest of the roof. And now I don't gotta worry about it anymore, that everything is permanently in place. So just a little bit of detail work here, nothing wild. I'll share more about this entire process and all of my options that I chose for decor and whatever when we talk about the entire build as a whole. But once I was happy with this, it was time to get back on to that cabinet build and finish up my dreamy Outfeed table for my brand new saw. Friends, in YouTube time, it's been a second since I've been in this shop. In real time, it's been about a week since I've been in the shop. And as you can see, not much has changed. We still have this hollow box in the middle of my shop. So today's goal is I want to add these like leveling furniture feet to the bottom of the Outfeed table. That way I can level the table with the table. Yeah, that makes sense. This is just a temporary piece here to help me with leveling. The real pieces I need are in there. So once it's level, we'll get the tops on, do a final leveling, and then hopefully I can get the doors on these cabinets. We'll see. I also am still waiting for my electrician to come to finish doing the electrical hookup for the saw. But once he does that, we can hop on the saw, power that bad boy up, and start cutting all of the custom pieces for this Outfeed table and get this thing done. I'm so excited. It gets really dark really early now. Let's just do this. Let's get started. So quick disclaimer, I don't know what happened to the footage for this portion of the build, so I did pull this off of my phone because I've been recording with my phone as well for social media, but anyway, not the point. The point is that after I did the leveling feet and leveled this cabinet with my table saw, it was time to add the butcher block tops, and they looked amazing. Now, I definitely cut them down to size using my circular saw once they were attached to the cabinets, but I did decide I wanted a little bit of an overhang to have some stools so I could have another place in the shop to sit and work, and I'm so stoked that I did that. But at this point, pretty much the cabinet was done, and it was time to fire up the table saw for those beautiful finishing touches. I feel like most people are so excited to get the keys to a new car, but this girl is so excited about the keys to a table saw. Are you kidding me? Top is dry. Everything is squared up and calibrated. Let's fire up this table saw today. I'm so excited. Let's cut out the final pieces we need for this Outfeed table. This might be the best day ever. I think this is the best day ever. Ooh, she's smooth. That cuts like butter. Okay, a couple thoughts. It cuts so nicely, like does not struggle at all. Secondly, it is quieter than my job site saw, which I'm so happy about. I was really nervous about the noise level. And third, it's super sturdy. Like I'm not worried it's gonna wobble, it is level. Having an Outfeed table, I think is like literally life-changing. I'm so excited. Like I can't wait to cut more pieces. Let's cut more pieces. Oh my God, I love having an Outfeed table so much. Feels like a dream. I could probably geek out for hours about how much I love having a cabinet saw and an Outfeed table in my workshop. But instead of doing that, we're gonna move on with this project because otherwise I'll be talking for hours. But essentially having the table saw to cut all of those final detail pieces for my cabinet was so helpful. Best day ever. So last up on this build were little things like toe kicks as well as some cabinet doors. And like I mentioned, I'll be adding some custom organization to this as my shop continues to evolve. So stay tuned for that in a future project. Oh my goodness. I love having a work surface that I can clamp things to. These little things that I've been like dreaming of and thinking of and like envisioning for a future workshop, especially having spent all those years in the shed and like they're finally coming to life. Like the little things, like being able to clamp something to an Outfeed table. Once the doors were set and all of like that final trim was done, it was then time for just those little minute final details on this Outfeed table, such as adding cabinet handles and adding some wood finish. And then this was pretty much a project. Now, I am going to be the first one to admit that there are many things that need to happen in this space still for it to feel complete. For instance, all of the organization, adding some dust collection, figuring out my scrap wood storage. But what I will say is that ever since I put this Outfeed table in my shop, it really is feeling like a shop, and I am so excited about being in here every single day. So one last thing I just wanted to note, I want to give a quick shout out to Shara because she had suggested keeping the Outfeed table a natural wood color instead of staining it black to match the rest of the cabinets. And I gotta say, it was a great suggestion. It really does make the space feel big and bright. And I really like the contrast between the Outfeed table and the rest of the cabinets in the space. And like I mentioned, she helped me build the rest of the cabinets in this workshop, so if you haven't checked out her channel already, please go do so. She is so talented and she's just like amazing at everything she does. I could not have done it without her. That being said, are you ready to see my new table saw setup? Because I think it's pretty rad. It was honestly at this point that I was so excited about my workshop because this place looks like a workshop. There's an Outfeed table, which I've been waiting for 12 years, a big girl saw, some workbenches, and it really is coming together, but it doesn't feel like me quite yet. So at this point in the process, now that all the practical builds were done, it was time to start putting my personality into the space and getting it looking like a studio shop and not just a garage shop so that we can make some cool content in a cool space. See a red button, I think that means it's recording. Anyway, as you can see, we are standing in front of a very boring wall, but it is not gonna be boring for long. In fact, we are fixing that today. So I am super stoked that we are at this point in this process where we're talking about boring walls, because this workshop originally was supposed to be a 2-month journey, and instead it turned into a year-plus long journey. But I'm so excited to finally be at a point where I can say, I'm done with construction in this space. It is now time to make this space feel like a happy little HQ for DIY hunters and a fun filming studio on top of a workshop. In fact, I've already gotten started organizing the space. I will share an organization video on the channel very soon. But today what I really want to do is focus on this wall behind me, because this has just been this huge, beautiful blank canvas that is just screaming for attention. And every time I look at it, I can't help but just see a brick wall for some reason. But Houston, we have a problem. So I originally wanted to do a real brick wall in this workshop, and I was quoted at $1,500 just for the brick. So we're gonna have to get creative. After some brainstorming and after some planning, I think I've come up with a way to get the brick accent wall that I want for under $250 for all the materials for the entire project. Quick story time. So my journey into DIY started when I was a broke college kid and I couldn't afford nice materials, so I had to find ways to get creative, and this project here is no different. In an effort to save $1,250, I'm gonna try to make this MDF sheet look like real bricks, starting with cutting away all of the half bricks first. Okay friends, panels cut. The other ones are outside. It's like pure carnage out there right now. Before I can get those up on the wall, I have to do a little bit of demo. So I'm going to take the trim off of these windows, and then I'm also going to take the trim off of the workbenches, and then get rid of this guy. And then once that's done, we can start putting that there. How does autofocus work on this new thing? Oh, let's do it. So although we won't be laying real brick, these sheets have their own challenges. Like for instance, they are heavy, and not like emotionally heavy like they'd say in the 80s. Like I love a good Back to the Future reference, but physically heavy, which means they need some help to stick to the wall. So I use a good amount of DAP's heavy duty construction adhesive to attach them to the walls. And for added security, because I am hanging these on a vertical surface, I also added some screws to each board while they're drying so they don't fall off the wall and like crush me. But once the adhesive is cured, I'll remove those screws because the adhesive is strong enough to hold the boards in place once it's dry. No worries about the window, I got a plan. So you know that saying, work smarter, not harder. Well, that definitely applies for projects when you're working by yourself. These sheets were heavy, so I really wanted to get as many of them up on the wall before worrying about final cuts. So for the windows, I blocked the windows, as you can see, and then used my router to cut out the window boxes. I'll list all the things I used in the materials list below so you can use the same if this is a situation you're running into. And then for the peaked roofs, I tried to rough cut them first and then cut them in with a multi-tool as close as possible. Woo, looking like I just put up a brick wall. Let's talk about what happened here. I pretty much got that angle correct. The problem though is I was 2 rows off. So as you can see, I had to bump up that panel in order to get it to match up there. No big deal. I think I'm actually gonna do the same thing on that side to make my life easy. I pretty much can take the measurements now from this panel to put on that panel. I do have to work around my electrical box, which is gonna kind of be annoying. I'm gonna try to get that panel up and then fill in some pieces and then we'll see where we are. I only bought 4 panels, but I think we could do this with 4 panels, friends. Putting together this project honestly felt like putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle, but cutting out those half bricks, as you can see, it's gonna make it so much easier to do this like faux mortar effect later in the process and hide all of those fake seams. And because I refused to spend a single penny more on this project, I kept every single offcut to use to fill in any blanks, and I tried to make those look organic as well. Time to clean up. Call it a day. Oh, hold on, check this out. Day wrap up on my phone because I want to show you something, but like, whoa, I look like I've been working in the coal mines. What is wrong with me? Anyway, check this out. This poor camera can't have nice things, guys. Literally the first day on the job. I guess if it can survive this, it can survive anything, right? Anyway, quick wrap up for the day. Look at that. Got lots of bricks up on the wall. I pretty much got all of the full sheets up. I have one more full sheet outside. That one's gonna get cut to go under there and then also fill in all of the blanks. We're gonna make it work. If I have to freaking dig for all of the ones that I cut off the sides, I'll do that. I don't care. I'm not buying any more than $250 worth of materials for this. So anyway, it's really dusty in here. I'm gonna clean up and then I'm gonna have myself some dinner because I'm hangry. See you tomorrow, friends. Bye. Friends, we're back in the shop. Okay, I touched one thing. It's already on my face. How is that even possible? This is where we ended yesterday. Real quick, so I actually had a little bit of a panic moment last night because I realized that this morning was trash day, and if I didn't get the trash out, they're not taking it for another week this week. So I basically dug through the trash last night, like full-blown dumpster diver mode, to take out all these tiny little pieces to try to fit into this panel on the bottom. So I did it, and the reason I did that is because I only have one full panel left and I still have to fill in both sides of this wall and get all the way up there as well. I'm not spending a penny more, so I have to make that panel and like a couple of scraps that are left over there work. So I'm gonna start puzzle piecing this giant jigsaw together. It looks a little janky right now. I promise this is gonna look better tomorrow. Today, let's just worry about filling in all the missing pieces and then getting anything that I haven't stained in the ceiling stained today, because I wanna let this wall dry for a full 24 hours before I start yanking all the screws out of it. So let's try to make this last panel fit into all of the rest of this wall, friends. Wish me luck. As if we haven't used enough corny sayings in this video, let's talk about another one, because sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures, and when you're on a tight budget, every piece of scrap counts. So my only mission from here on out in the install process was to just join in any pieces I could find to close the gaps in the wall. And quick spoiler alert, I originally didn't think I'd have enough left over to do a surround on the electrical panel wall, and originally did decide to box it out, but later in the process I was able to actually lay some brick, I'm literally doing quotes with my hands, like you can see me doing air quotes with my hand, and blend it into the wall, and I'm so happy I ended up taking the time to do that, but you won't see that until later. So anyway, once those final bricks were up, it was then time to just do some little finishing touches before moving on to making this wall look pretty, and that mostly just included me staining the rest of those 2x4s in the ceiling and also finally tucking away any of those obnoxious wires. I cannot believe what a difference just staining the ceiling made for this entire space. But back to this brick wall, it is officially time to make it look like, well, a brick wall. Morning, friends. It is so early. I was so excited to get this wall done. I popped out of bed before 7 a.m. Who am I? Anyway, look how good everything looks. I got a chance yesterday to stain all of those unstained boards and all of the pieces are up. So I'm gonna start my morning by pulling all the screws out of this wall, and then we're gonna get to making some magic happen and making this look like a real brick wall and not like a pieced together giant jigsaw puzzle. I look like a mad chemist today. We're about to do like pretty much the easiest science experiment ever. So I decided I'm using plaster for this project instead of drywall compound, mostly because plaster does not really need to be sealed and it just looks a little more natural, more like an actual compound that would be found in between brick, but it does require a little more work than joint compounds. Like compounds you can buy already pre-mixed in a bucket. We're gonna have to mix this together here. And I'm gonna start actually with a really small batch. You only wanna work in small batches with this stuff because it does set pretty quickly. So I'm gonna start with a small batch so that I can get all the way up to the top with in like a smaller bucket. It's easier to hold and scoop out. And then as we work down the wall, I am going to do a larger bucket that I can trowel out and skim all over the brick. Let's do it. In all honesty, this was the most fun part of the project because you don't gotta be neat about it or calculated about it at all. You just gotta like slap on the plaster and call it a day. I think the hardest part about this is A, making sure that you're covering all of those empty seams, and B, making sure that you're working fast enough that it doesn't dry on you, because it does dry pretty quickly. In all honesty, I did want this to look like an old, weathered, vintage looking brick wall, so not being neat about it worked in my favor, which was pretty cool. The other cool part about working with plaster for this project is that you really don't have to worry about putting too much or too little on the walls, because once it is dry, you can add more or you can take some off with sandpaper, which is exactly what I did to give it this roughed up vintage look. I just literally used a sanding block, scuffed some away, and then it was ready for the final touches. I'm so excited to show you my idea for this. Friends, today's an exciting day. We're painting my logo on this brick wall. Let's do it. I actually think it's an understatement to say that I've been dreaming of putting my logo or some sort of cool mural on a brick wall in this shop since the day we closed on this house almost 3 years ago. Can you believe it's been almost 3 years already? But I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I actually asked my patrons on my Patreon account what they thought, and I think across the board we all agreed that some iteration of my logo would look the coolest instead of a mural, so that's what we're doing. P.S. If you're not on Patreon with us, come on, join us. It's a really cool community, sharing some project sneak peeks there, asking for project advice. I have you guys sharing your projects with me as well so we can talk about it. It's been a really awesome crew there, and I hope that you'll join our little family. But anyway, back to the project. As you can see, I chose my logo. I might be biased, but I think it looks so good. Now at this point, once that logo was painted, all that was left to do was add some final touches like some trim work and a couple of shelves from some leftover lumber from my basement demo. And honestly, friends, this shop really looks like a studio now, and I could not be more proud to share it with you all right now. I honestly feel like this brick wall just pulls the entire look of this space together. It looks so good, but now that the shop looks aesthetically pleasing, I also have to like do some practical aesthetics inside all of my drawers and cabinets as well. So next stop is organization. Friends, today we're talking organization. After one whole year of turning this one-car garage into my dream workshop, it is finally time to get organized. Now throughout this video, I will for sure be referencing some of the organization tips that I shared in that first shed workshop organization video. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'll link it below this video for you to check out. But for today's video, we are gonna be talking about not one, not two, not even three, but 5 of my favorite organization tips for small workshop spaces. And don't worry, because your girl will be linking pretty much every single thing that I share in this video on my website, so check out the link to that below this video as well if you're interested. Okay, before we talk about actual organization, let's talk about something super important first. The layout of our new workshop. When you have a small shop space, especially like I did in my shed workshop, you have to decide if you want your tools to move around on wheels or if you would like everything to stay in one spot. In my shed, everything was on wheels because the space was so tiny.
What is this?
A center for ants?
There were many times where I had to roll everything that was in my shed outside in order to use it. But then I got my garage and I wanted a totally different setup. I have a workstation, a miter station, and even an Outfeed table for working with big pieces of wood, and none of them are on wheels. It feels like a dream. And when I designed all of these spaces, I designed all of them with places to store things to keep my 275 square foot workshop nice and organized. And guess what? Fun fact, you can actually check out build videos for all 3 of these stations on my channel and my friend Shara at Woodshop Diaries channel as well. And we also have plans for all of them in case you are looking to build custom workbenches for your own workshop as well. I'm not gonna lie, it was way cheaper to build every single one of these workstations custom than to purchase them pre-made from the home improvement store. You're welcome. But now that we've talked about layout and some additional options for organizing your space, let's talk about actually organizing the space, starting with putting some smaller items in drawers to get them organized. Don't judge me. You know we all have a junk drawer like this. Let's make it better. Come on. All right, let's talk about drawers. So there are many ways to organize them in your workshop. You can use things you buy from stores, make your own from things you already have, or find cheap ways to keep everything neat. In fact, one option I like is these containers from the dollar store. They come in lots of sizes and are super cheap, but you can't really make them exactly how you want. So this is where scrapwood hoarding comes in handy because you can organize your drawers using scrapwood. Just cut them down to size and fit them into the drawers with nail or glue. I personally like nails, that way I can change them later because let's be real, my shop is ever changing. Now, I like to save money on storing the bigger things in drawers. For small parts, I do like to invest in something a little more expensive, and that is a pack-out system where I can store some tools and materials that I often bring to job sites. These things lock together and you can travel with them pretty easily. They are rad. But now that we have these drawers organized, let's talk about something different, and that is storing things vertically. Vertical storage is really, really useful in a small workshop space. And what do I mean by vertical storage? I mean storing things on the walls or in the ceiling. In fact, in my old workshop, I had a lot of pegboard on my walls to hang a lot of my tools instead of closed storage. And I also stored a lot of things in the roof as well, which we'll talk about a little later in this video. Now, even though in my new workshop, I wanted to put all of my tools in cabinets, I did still want to actually hang my clamps on the wall for easy use and easy access. So I'm gonna show you my favorite clamp storage hack. This is the wall where I'm hanging my clamps. As you can see, I've already installed a couple of clamp racks. I took one out of the wall to show you how to install them. I'm gonna show you how easy it is, and then we're gonna get the clamps up on this wall. And yes, I'm aware there's a TV here. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's do it. Vertical storage is really useful in a small workshop because you can use wall space to hang up your tools. Like I said, in my old workshop, I had a board with pegs on it. In my new workshop, I just wanted to use shelves with doors, but I still wanted to hang the clamps on the wall. I use these special brackets that are easy to put up, and don't worry, they stay in place very well. They never fell down in my old workshop either. I know some people are nervous about the TV, but I'm cool with it. So we talked about drawer storage, but we haven't talked about cabinet storage. When my friend Shara helped me build these cabinets, we actually created adjustable shelves for the insides of pretty much all of the cabinets. But here's the thing, I'm also using my cabinets to store some bigger equipment, like my planer or my Craig Foreman, or just like larger things that don't necessarily fit in drawers. So one thing that Shara had actually suggested when we were building was to consider the idea of building pull-out drawers for my cabinets, especially for the stuff that's really heavy to lift. So if you're like me and you want to store your big stuff in cabinets or hide it away in your small space, then let's build some pull-out drawers for our stuff. This is one of those projects I kicked myself for not doing sooner because it is so simple. The best part about it too is you don't have to be really good at making drawers to make drawers for your cabinets for your workshop. In fact, I literally just used plywood, some pocket hole screws, and some wood glue and brad nails to make it all happen, and it only took me a few hours to do. Now these particular drawer boxes that we're making right here are for the planer and for the Craig jig, which are kind of heavy, so I did actually use heavy duty drawer slides for these. I think they hold up to like 400 pounds, which is absurd. These things do not weigh 400 pounds, but I will link them along with everything else under this video in case you're interested in also storing your heavy tools into your cabinets. But as you can see, essentially I just measured the tools that I had, built the drawer boxes around them by cutting the plywood slightly larger than those tools, adding some sides to the bottom using some pocket holes, and then I nailed and glued the fronts and the backs on before installing them into the actual cabinet boxes. Before we put our drawer slides in, which I got some heavy duty ones, these are probably like overkill, but these hold I think like 200 pounds of weight. But typically when you attach drawer slides, you can attach them directly to your cabinet. However, because we are using the cabinet and we have hinges in the way, we need a spacer. So I cut this is like a 1x3, down to the size of the drawer slide. Now actually what I'm gonna do is place a spacer underneath it. By putting the spacer in now, when the drawer actually slides out, it will not hit the door. By having a small spacer here, when we attach the drawer slides, now I can slide the spacer under the drawer box, and then we know that the drawer box and the slides match up. So I'm gonna get started on that. The other thing I'm gonna do is I cut a small spacer here, just like an additional 1/2 inch spacer. I'm just gonna slide this here. What this is gonna do is help me line up where my rail has to go for the drawer slide. And now I know that the drawer slide is gonna completely avoid the hinge when it slides out. So I should probably adjust the viewfinder and make sure that you can all see me. Why did I choose this route? I could have gone around. This would make a really great spot for hide and seek, to be quite honest. I'm a mess. Who lets me be a content creator? So real quick thing to note here, I just tacked in these spacers with nails, and then when I screwed the actual slides in, I did just use slightly longer screws than what come with the typical rails. Let's get a drawer box on. Woo! Fun fact, I purposefully chose hinges for these doors that come off very easily, just in case I ever need to use the planer or the Craig jig. I'm gonna remove this door actually to make applying these drawer sides so much easier, and then we'll put it back on. So quick tip inside of this quick tip about organizing your cabinets, having quick release hinges on your doors is a game changer, because now I don't have to actually take these tools off of these drawers. I can just pull the drawers out, pull the cabinet doors off, and I'm able to use longer stock that goes past the cabinet doors and will not hit the cabinets at all. Score. So anyway, that is basically the tutorial on how to put drawers in your cabinets for your tools. Now that we are in business, I think it's time to focus on talking about the thing I've been using to build all of these things in my shop, scrap wood storage. Imagine it doesn't fit. It's so perfect, like a glove. Woo! We've talked about layout, we've talked about cabinet and drawer storage, we talked about a little bit of vertical space, but we haven't talked about yet is what I personally think is the hardest thing to tackle in a small workshop, and that is storing lumber. So I have an idea for this, let's do it. Personally, I think lumber storage really is the hardest thing to master in a small workshop. In my old workshop, I kept the wood in the ceiling, but for this workshop, I want something different. I'm legit nervous this is gonna like fall on me. This is why I need scrap storage. This is like the woodworker's version of the sword and the stone. Now I know I just went on a whole rant in the layout portion of this video about wanting everything in this new shop to be stationary, but lumber storage is going to be the exception to that rule. So in fact, we are going to be building a really simple mobile lumber storage rack. And this took me about an afternoon or so to do, with a little bit of being extra added on the top, because, you know, that's me. All right, what I'm about to do is gonna be so overkill for a scrap wood cart, but I just want it to look good. Some people say potato, some people say potato, some people say go the extra mile, and some people say I'm being extra. Either way, I made sure that this scrap wood cart looked good. Bad boy right here is a little too beefy to lift and put on the Craig fork, so we're gonna go back to basics with the OG Craig jig. Does anybody else's brain do that? Like you say a word and then immediately your brain is like, this is the song that goes with that lyric, even though you weren't even singing a song or a lyric to begin with. No, just me? Okay. So back to the build. While this build is pretty basic, it consists of a bottom, 2 sides, a front and a back, and dividers, and some wheels. I will post plans for this project on my website. You can find the link to that below this video in case you are interested in building a cart like this for your shop. I think the best part about this cart though is you can customize it to any size shop. Mine is pretty compact. If I had a bigger shop, I'd make it bigger, but you do you, fam. I mean, personally, I just really wanted to get a lot of my lumber off of the floor. I wanted a place to put it, and honestly, I have way too much lumber, so once this thing fills up, it's kind of a nice gauge for like when it's time to get rid of some scraps, if you know what I mean. All right, I'm about to do something really extra, like really extra. This is so not mandatory for this build. In fact, it's not even like considered optional. You don't really have to do this at all, but what I'm gonna do is I don't like these exposed edges, so I am going to edge band all of them to match all of my other cabinets in my shop because I am who I am. So this is definitely one of those projects that you can leave alone after you build it. Like I said, I really did a couple things here to go the extra mile to make this scrap wood cart look aesthetically pleasing and match the rest of my shop, but that is so not mandatory. Either way though, what I will say is having this lumber cart has been so helpful because I've been able to really organize everything, take stock of everything, get rid of things I don't need, and I'm so happy I took an afternoon to build it. I really do think that lumber storage is the hardest part of organizing a small shop sometimes. There are some other options like vertical storage with some hooks and some shelving. For me, I like the idea of being able to roll things out and roll things back in, which is why I chose it. But now that the scrap wood is stored, let's move on to our last and our final tip in the shop organization video. So now that we've pretty much organized this space, I want to talk about one more thing that I get asked about probably the most out of anything, and that is dust collection. Let's get started. All right, so keeping dust out of your workshop is so important, and there are so many ways to do it in a small space. But first, let's talk about collecting dust from big tools like sanders, planers, table saws. These tools make a lot of dust, so you need a strong dust collector. In my small workshop, I like to use a system that hangs on the wall. Doing this saves so much valuable real estate on the floor or of your workbenches. It is just a game changer to have it hanging up on the wall. Now, let's be real, I don't use this wall collector for everything. For smaller tools like my miter saw, my circular saw, my sander, I do use smaller dust vacs for this, and I do opt to get different accessories for the dust vacs like smaller hoses or hoses that fit both the vac and my tools. I'll link all of those, don't worry, but essentially you have so many options in so many different sizes and budgets, ranging from dust vacs you can get at your local home improvement store and manually power on, to dust vacs that you can order from specialty stores that power on automatically every time you use your tools. Friends, we are so close to having this shop done. Now that everything is built and everything is pretty much organized, there's one more thing that I think this shop needs before we can call it a finished shop. So this one wall on the side of the workshop when you walk in has been kind of driving me a little wild because it's just kind of boring. And I would love to do some sort of fun accent wall or something here. Nothing overpowering because I have the brick wall and like that's a lot on its own, but I actually found a bunch of old tools when I was renovating the shop and renovating my house that I kept to the side that I'd love to try to display on this wall as a gallery wall and kind of as like an ode to the house, because I'm pretty sure that these tools were used to like build this garage initially, build the house initially. So I'm gonna do some work on this wall. This wall is already primed, so today I'm going to just lime wash it, give it some texture, and then once that's dry, we'll get started on a gallery wall, and then we can do a full shop reveal. I'm so excited, friends. Let's get started. I've been working on this wall for a couple days now. I have to keep like coming back to it because every time I like get too far in, I have to step away and then come back and make sure it's looking good. So far so good. I did have to go on Facebook Marketplace for a couple of things because I was missing some spots. And as you can see, there's a big bald spot right here. But originally I went to go pick up these really cool hand drills today. He had 3 of them and like a whole bucket of bits and some hammers. But while I was there, this man also had this cool thing. This is a huge 2-person saw. So I am very excited to get this on the wall. However, now that I have this giant thing, I kind of want to move some stuff around because I feel like if I put it here, it's too many big tools. So I might put it somewhere over there where all the little tools are to break it up a little bit. Don't worry about that spot right there. We got something special planned for that. I feel like I've found the missing piece to the walls. So I'm gonna get started on hanging some of this stuff up, and then we will circle back in a little bit so I can show you what's going here. I'm so excited. So after a couple of days of work of putting up all of these old tools, it was time to add the pièce de résistance, which is this amazing hand-scrolled sign from Lizzie at the House of Timber. She actually made the original sign that was in my last shed shop that you all know and love and has become a little bit of an icon for my brand. But with a new space comes a new logo, and with a new logo comes a new sign, and with all of that comes the amazing final reveal of my full garage renovation to dream workshop space. Listen, I know I keep referring to this as my dream workshop, and I'm not gonna lie, it's because it is. I've been dreaming of this exact space for over a decade, and I am just so excited about how it's all come together. And honestly, like, this is just not my space, this is our space. It's our space where we are going to be creating some absolute magic in here together on this channel. I mean, let's be real. I would literally have none of this if it wasn't for you and your support. So thank you so much for helping all of my little big, really, dreams come true. That being said, I know this video was a little different than what we typically do, this long form compilation thing, but if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. I'm more than happy to do more of these every so often. You know, I have lots and lots of series on my channel. Either way, we're gonna be back in this workshop space very soon, working on a really special project that I cannot wait to share with you. So definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you do not miss a thing. I will see you all very soon. You know how much I love you. You know how much I appreciate you. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for helping me get this amazing space up and running. I cannot wait for our next project together, friends. Happy DIYing.